The Toll Road visits Woodland Cemetery in Dayton, Ohio to visit a few of the sports legends of the town. This is John H. Shackelford Jr. Lived from 1913 to 1948. He was a race car driver. He actually raced in Indianapolis 500 and then went on to race at the Dayton Speedway. But he turned a little too fast, went over an embankment, rolled 40 feet down, and died shortly after at the St. Elizabeth Medical Center here in Dayton. And this is where he's buried. It's kind of cool. He's got a little old-timey car there on his headstone. It says, "Race on to rest forever one." Okay, the next one we're finding here is Alexander Campbell, which he's the Scotty here. And legend had it, when he first got off the boat in Boston, him and his brother headed straight to the bar, ordered a couple beers. Well, Alex, he was a mere 5'5" lad, so the bartender told him, "We don't serve minors here." And his response was, "I ain't no stinking minor. I'm a golf pro." Now, Alex would go on to design the Moraine Country Club Golf Club, Miamisburg, Meadowbrook up between Inglewood and Trotwood, and Madden Golf Course, which they just closed recently here in Dayton. He was the designer of all of them courses. All right, the next famous Dayton sports legend we have here is William Schroyer. Now you might be asking who he is, but I guarantee you've seen his invention before. Way back in 1924, he had the first patent for a metal baseball bat. Now he didn't really market it too much or anything, because the first metal bat used in a baseball game wasn't until the 1970s, and he passed away in '64, so he didn't really make his millions off of that, but nonetheless, he was the originator of the metal baseball bat. Now, not very far at all from our last grave, we find the greatest marksman of all time, Rolla Pop Heikes. Looks like he has a little crack. Clean this up for him a little bit. But he was the first man ever to hit 100 clay targets in a row. It's from the Dayton area. One of the things, in 1911, the Dayton Daily News had a headline that said he was murdered. And when he saw that in the newspaper, he was a little bit surprised. What had happened was he had left his bag in a vehicle, and someone stole it. And that person got murdered, and they just assumed with what they found in the bag that was the owner of the bag, and they thought old Pops had died, but he lived on to about the Great Depression era. Now, Wilmer was a 3-time state champion when he played for Stivers High School in the 30s. He went on to play for Ohio State, where they won a Big Ten championship in '33, and he played a little professional basketball. So what we're looking for now is Ziba Crawford Jr. Here's his family plot, and here's Ziba. Ziba actually formed a company that would become the McGregor Golf Company. Ziba was of Scottish descent, so when all of the Scottish and Irish came over, they brought the game of golf with them, and they got in the golf club business. Took off from there. It was Crawford Company for a while, and they had another partner named McGregor, and I guess that had a little better Scottish name to it, so they must have went with that name. So here's the gravesite of Maggie Doan Wright, the female lady Rough Rider champion of the world. And she had a tragic end when she was riding, believe it or not, a bucking bronco called Gentle Annie. Gentle Annie wasn't so gentle, and she knew that when she got on her. But some of the cowboys kind of asked her, "Oh, are you afraid to get on her?" No, Maggie wasn't afraid to ride anything. The horse bucked through a wire fence though and fell on top of her. And then when Gentle Annie tried to get up, stepped right on Maggie's head and crushed her skull, putting an end to her life. And one of the last words she had was, "Well, I rode her." So she went out a champion. One of Dayton's most famous sports legends is Richard Buckeye Dixie Blandy, world champion flagpole sitter. Blandy broke the record for sitting on top of poles several times, including in 1965 in Stockholm, Sweden, where he sat on top of a pole for 125 days on a chair 200 feet above the ground. Now, during this stay, he drank 92 bottles of whiskey and smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Blandy was even interviewed by Johnny Carson when he sat on top of a flagpole, but tragedy struck on May 6, 1974, when Richard Blandy, age 72 at the time, died when the flagpole he was sitting on collapsed in Harvey, Illinois. I hope you enjoyed this tour of some of the sports legends of Dayton, Ohio, and who knows where the toll road will lead to next.